So USAPL Raw Nationals are going on right now as we speak in Atlanta, Georgia, and even though I'm not competing in the event this year, I still really pay attention to it, and it gets me fired up to see other people compete and lift, and really makes me want to push some heavy weight and do the same. Now, it's been a little bit tough for me because I did qualify for the competition, but I made the decision a couple of months ago that I wouldn't be competing because I knew that I'd be in Seattle the entire week before, and traveling to Seattle for work, while great, is very tiring in terms of training and just my overall energy levels, adapting back to the East Coast after being on West Coast hours for a full week and just being home for a day or two before having to go to Atlanta to lift. It probably wasn't the best idea. And add to the fact that I've still been having some shoulder issues where my bench is really suffering, just didn't really make sense. That being said, though, I'm at a very interesting spot in my training right now. So I'm about 9 weeks into a 12-week training cycle. Typically, after that, what I would do is test my numbers, then take a small deload, then jump back into a training cycle. The problem is I have a meet on December 3rd, so those timelines don't really add up how I'd like them to do, and I'd have a very, very short training cycle, so I kind of made my compromise today. And what I decided to do was cut my training cycle short starting today and do a mock meet, and then take a short deload and get right back into training next week and have a little bit longer of a training cycle leading up to the meet where I might be able to actually peak. So what I did this morning, I got up and I had my typical breakfast, which for me these days consists of a couple ounces of ground chorizo, a couple eggs on top of that, and then also on the side I'll have a bowl of cereal, in this case Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and some almond milk. Gave that a couple hours to sit in my stomach and came down to the basement and decided to lift. So for this mock meet, I decided I really only wanted to work up to my openers, again, given the fact I want to jump into a training cycle next week and not have to worry about taking a long deload. Sounds kind of gross, taking a long deload, but I'm going to roll with it. So what I did is I based all of my numbers off of what I thought my third attempts would be. So I used a 590-pound squat, a 655-pound deadlift, and a 315-pound bench. Now, for those first two numbers, I've hit those within the last couple of weeks, and for bench, I just haven't been able to train heavy, so I'm assuming my max is probably around 315. Now, for squat, working up to an opener, that would put it at around 535, which is still relatively heavy for me, considering that the meet I did earlier this year, 535 was my third attempt.
Squat. Up. There we go. Damn. Rick.
And it definitely showed in execution on the lift today.
Is probably coaching her. I believe it to be her mom. And, fantastic job. So she. And are these only second attempts or are these third attempts? That should have been the third attempt. That should have been the third attempt. I think that was the first attempt or the third attempt.
One of the things I always have trouble with is whenever I max out or attempt to go fairly heavy, I really start to question a lot of my own setup and technique, and I really had a hard time kind of deciding where I wanted the bar on my back for this session. And even though the weight moved okay, it wasn't as fast as I would have liked for an opener. But that being said, I don't think I've ever been real satisfied with the speed of any of my lifts when we start to get above 90%. From there, we moved on to bench, and going off a max of 315, that would put my opener around 280 pounds or so, but during warm-ups, bench felt pretty good, so I decided to bump that up a little bit by about 5 kilos, and ended up taking an opener around 289, and this moved pretty good, and I think this was probably a good estimate of where I'm at.
Just that, yeah. You know, but if you, they can adjust for track and for shoes and for the starting blocks and everything.
Finally, that brought us to deadlift, and going off of a max of 655, which was pretty aggressive in my opinion, because even though I did pull that recently, it was on a deadlift bar, and I really haven't gone that heavy ever before on a stiff bar. Stiff is a lot more tough to pull on, if you know what I'm saying. So that being the case, it was put my opener at around 589 pounds. And it's always tough to judge openers on deadlift for me, especially because if you've already squatted and benched beforehand, that's going to take a lot of your energy, especially the way that I squat and the way that I deadlift. It's very easy for my lower back to get fatigued pretty quick. And that being said, the weight moved fairly slow.
They're not taking any gambles. The best lifters don't take gambles when it's not necessary. You know, when you get down to your mom's deadlift, okay. Seeing where the positions are, you're seeing how the ranking is, you're seeing that you might have to take a certain jump to get on the podium or to beat another person.
But one of the things that I'm confident in is my ability to kind of grind out deadlifts, especially when the form doesn't really look that great or even if it moves really slow. I still usually am able to get it up. So overall, the mock meet went okay. Didn't move as fast as I wanted, but it's nice to lift heavy weight. It's also awesome to see all my friends competing in this powerlifting competition. Good luck to all the rest of you that are competing over the course of this weekend. I'm going to go ahead and take a couple of days to deload and jump right back into it next week. Try to lift some fucking heavy ass weight. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.